Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight we have guest Bill Bean. I've been looking forward to this show for a long time. I've listened to a number of interviews of Bill Bean. I'm always like, I gotta get this guy as a guest. He's so fascinating. He's a spiritual warrior, an ordained minister who exorcises demons, but he's so much more than that. He has had so many different experiences on the UFOs, cryptid. He's a man of many. He's a paranormal soup. That's what he is. I love guests that make the show what it is. It's a soup of all different phenomenon in the paranormal, and Bill Bean is definitely right up there with that. And tonight we also have special guests with us. Bill asked me if I wanted to have Anita Intenzo and her son Chris, and I forgot to ask how to say Chris's last name, so I'm not going to try. They were on a haunting, season 7, episode 12, Portal of Doom. It's one of my favorite haunting episodes, and Bill Bean himself, of course, has been on a number of haunting episodes. It's one of my favorite shows in the paranormal. So this is a big honor for me tonight to have all three of these people on. So we'll have them on together after the first commercial break, and we will take phone calls probably after the second commercial break when we just have Bill on. So hang in there. And of course, what we do every Sunday night is the World Wide Web of Weird, and we got a lot of weird to get to. So let's go ahead and get rolling into the show. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said, I'm your host, Jason Bland. Tonight's guest, Bill Bean, will be on with us after the World Wide Web of Weird. So our special guests, Anita Intenzo and her son, Chris. Like I said, they were from a haunting season 7, episode 12, A Portal of Doom, one of my favorite A Haunting episodes. So this is a true honor to have them on. So they will be on the show after the World Wide Web of Weird. But let me bring on my panel of the Paranormal Soup team. I got Jamie D, my beautiful co-host, here with us tonight. How you doing tonight, Jamie?
Doing great and really excited to hear what's gonna go on tonight.
I tell you, it's going to be soupy because Bill Bean, I've been reading his book, Stranger Than Fiction, Spiritual Warrior. He gave me a copy of it, and I've been reading it, and I'm not finished. I've been actually only been reading it for a few days. I've been so behind on all my reading, but man, it is all aspects of the paranormal. So many different phenomenon he gets into and his experiences. It's really incredible. So I can't wait to talk to him tonight. It's his first time on the show. Also joining us from St. Augustine, Florida, is Rob Autry himself. Tonight, Rob's going to run the World Wide Web of Weird for us. We don't have Jeffrey Chan tonight, so Rob's going to give it a shot. He's done it before. I think you'll handle the weird, right?
We'll see. It could get really weird with me doing it.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of that, let's go ahead and roll into the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, we got plenty of weirdness. For those listening on, we'll get to that in a second. But tonight's World Wide Web of Weird, we're starting off with Uri Geller. He promises to stop Bre-X with using just telepathy. Uri Geller. Well, I was going to say, I got ahead of myself there, is if you're listening on the Paranormal Radio Network, we are a webcast. You can watch and see videos or the articles that we show. Sometimes, mostly it's articles, so you're not missing anything too much. But sometimes we do have some videos and pictures. And tonight, I do have to say, there are some incredible pictures that Chris took when Bill Bean was at their residence that are incredible. So you might want to watch tonight. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't want to just listen and come watch, because it's gonna be some incredible stuff. But let's get to this. This is from theguardian.com. Uri Geller promised to stop Bre-X. Is it Bre-Exit or Bre-Exit? I don't know. I'm not from Britain.
Breakfast? I don't know.
Breakfast? Using telepathy. Illusionist, I love they start this out. Illusionist Uri Geller, way to nail it, has told Theresa May he will not allow her to lead Britain out of the EU. In an open letter to the Prime Minister, the Israel-British TV personality said he felt psychically and very strongly that the most Britons were anti-Brexit and promised to stop the process telepathically. He wrote, "I feel physically and very strongly that most British people do not want Brexit. I love you very much, but I will not allow you to lead Britain to Brexit. As much as I admire you, I will stop you telepathically from doing this, and I believe I am capable of executing it. Before I take this drastic course of action, I appeal to you to stop the process immediately while you still have a chance." Geller, who is currently in Israel, used to live in Sauning, which lies in Maidenhead constituency. In his letter, he said he had known the Prime Minister for 21 years and that she had visited his home. I'm sure she loves that he mentioned that. 3 years before you became Prime Minister, I predicted your victory when I showed you Winston Churchill's spoon on my Cadillac, which I asked you to touch. He also claimed he is using the power of his mind to ensure Jeremy Corbyn never gets the keys to 10 Downing Street. I will ensure that they bend out of all proportion to ensure that he never takes up residence there. Wow, Uri Geller is so political. I don't know if telepathy is going to do it, buddy. I don't know. I don't have a horse in this race, but I don't know. Something's going to go down in the EU. I don't know if it's good or not. All right, let's move on. Article 2 in the World Wide Web of Weird. Playboy Mansion. I was waiting for this. Honestly, this. This is Article 2. Playboy Mansion is haunted by female ghosts 2 years after Hugh Hefner's death, as his longtime girlfriend Bridget, how do you say her name? Margaret, reveals chilling sightings of women standing in the doorway. A woman. There it is. Yep. 2 years after the American publisher's death, age 91, his former L.A. residence, the world-famous Playboy Mansion, is apparently haunted by ghosts. An ex-girlfriend of Hefner's revealed on Tuesday she has encountered spirits in the hallways, the Homely Hills property. She's self-proclaimed ghost hunter Bridget. I don't know how to say her last name. Bridget. We'll just call her Bridget. I'm sure that's what he called her. 45 told Channel 7 the morning show that she finds the Playboy Mansion spooky. She recalled a frightening experience when she was sitting in one of the bedrooms watching TV and a woman appeared standing in the doorway. The sighting had a chilling effect on Bridget's friend, one of whom immediately broke into tears. While she did not get a good... yeah, okay. A house of Playboy bunnies and ghosts. I'm sure there'd be tears. While she did not get a good look at the spirit, the former model claimed that it looked like a woman standing there. It did get a negative vibe from it all. I didn't get a negative vibe from it all, she explained. I got a very positive vibe. I think it might have been a former employee of Hef's just coming to see the new addition to the family. Built in 1927, located on Homely Hills, Playboy Mansion features 29 rooms, a wine cellar, grand hall, as well as a swimming pool in its own grotto. Hugh Hefner, founder of Playboy Publishing Empire, 43 years before his death in 2017. Not a Hugh Hefner fan. You know,
if any of those, you know, Playboy bunnies want to come haunt me, I'm down.
Right. Yeah, what kind of Playboy bunny was it? Was it a former employee? Well, I considered all those girls his employees.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Hugh Hefner should have gone to jail for child pornography. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm not a Hugh Hefner fan. All right, let's move on. Sorry if you are. I'm sorry. PhantomandMonsters.com. This one here. Mantis Man. I recently received the following account. Like I said, it's from PhantomandMonsters.com. I just watched a show called Monsters and Mysteries in America, and I love that show, on the Travel Channel. And last part, even though it's probably a lot of bogus stuff, I love that show. The Travel Channel. And the last part of it was about a brown mantis man near a river. Let's see. I actually saw one of these while back in 2011 in southeastern Connecticut, right near the Thames River. I was driving home from work, and it was after midnight. I saw a small 1.5 to 2 foot tall praying mantis humanoid running on the side of the Pequot Avenue in New London, Connecticut. The avenue runs alongside the Thames River, and was driving southbound on Pequot. I don't know if that's how you say it. When I saw it on the side of the road directly from my left, it was a mahogany brown color, and it looked exactly like the CGI version on the show. I stopped my car. I wonder what show. Stopped my car and watched it, and it was looking right at me the whole time as it ran towards a storm drain. It never took its eyes off of me, and then it jumped down the storm drain. When I got home, I told my boyfriend at the time about it, and we both laughed it off. I chalked it up to being overtired and seeing things because I was so exhausted. But now I know I wasn't seeing things. It's disturbing to realize this could have been real. So she saw this on the show, and it just to her exactly what she saw on that TV show. That's what she meant. Oh, I got you. Sorry. From the Monster Mysteries TV show. Oh, I see. I totally missed that. Wow. But the mantis thing, you know, the alien encounters with the mantis thing. I mean, the last thing I want to see is a bug-eyed creature, a real bug-eyed creature.
And if it's anything like the actual mantis, man, that thing would be pretty wicked.
But this thing was only like 2 feet tall. You know, it was like a little one, like a baby one.
I was watching a thing on mantises the other day. I saw one take a bird down.
Oh yeah. Oh man. I watched a mantis fighting a bird. Remember that? I took Dean on it was the weirdest scene. No. That was the weirdest scene. So like I'm going through some alien stuff at that time. I'm not, just let people know. I was talking to Terry Lovelace and talking about a memory I had of a mantis-like alien. I'm not just going to leave it at that. And then I go on this field trip around that time with Dean to the Brookfield Zoo. Not to the Brookfield Zoo. No. It was Science and Industry, wasn't it? Yeah, I think it was. And we were coming back, and we're waiting at the train stop, and there was all this noise, and Dean has sensory disorder, and I needed something because he was flipping out, and I suddenly turn, and I see this cardinal having a fight with this praying mantis. And what was interesting is the cardinal is like my wife's grandmother who passed away. That's kind of their theme together is the cardinal. Like, and if a cardinal shows up, it usually means it's her grandmother. I'm not joking. And is fighting this mantis, man. And oh man, the bird won though. The bird won. Ate that mantis, but man, it saved my butt. Dean was totally into it. All right, let's move on. All right, number 3 here. Oh no, we were on number 3. Never mind. Hold on. We got to go to number 4. Sorry, lost my spot. All right, so let's see here. This one, Coast to Coast AM here has this one. Holy Child statue in Mexico cries. Holy Child statue in a town of Acapulco has been inexplicably crying since start of the year, and residents of the community aren't quite sure what to make of it. The ceramic piece, which can be found in the home in the village of Kilometro 42, reportedly first began shedding tears on January 1st. Since then, additional crying incidents have occurred with numerous witnesses watching in awe. According to one resident, opinions on the eerie phenomenon have been mixed, with some people suggesting that the tears are a bad omen, and others arguing that the crying is a more benevolent sign from God. For their part, officials at the local Catholic Church were reticent to ascribe special significance to the ongoing event and seem to express skepticism of it altogether. Not everything corresponds to a spiritual phenomenon that are represented from the church in the area. Sometimes these things are just merely natural. Well, I don't think it's natural. I don't think that coming out of a doll natural. Either it's blood tears coming out of a doll and it's holy or something, or evil. Who knows? I think or it's fake. They're faking it. I mean, really somebody got one of those dolls that no kid should have ever played with if it's got ooze coming out of its eyes. I don't know.
Yeah,
just saying. All right, let's move on. All right, New York Post is the next one here. That's all I got to say on the crying doll. I thought it was interesting, but I mean, come on. It could be real. Who knows? I mean, let's just put it in a sealed box in glass. Nobody touch it. Let's see if it keeps crying tears. And then cut her open. No. Find out what makes her tick. No, I'm joking. It's holy. Right. All right, let's move on. NewYorkPost.com. NASA astronauts are under attack in space. Not by aliens. No. By herpes. Yes. NASA is fighting a war in orbit against space herpes. Space herpes, man. That's a new STD for me.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I hate when that happens.
Right. Astronauts aboard the International Space Station and other missions have been plagued by a resurgence in often dormant virus because of stress of space travel, according to a study by NASA researchers published in this month's issue of Journal Frontiers in Microbiology. How many people subscribe to that? Roughly 53% of astronauts on a short-term space shuttle flight show signs of herpes, according to the study's lead researcher, Satish Mehta. I'm sure I butchered that. Exposure to microgravity and cosmic radiation, along with forces of takeoff, wreaks havoc on space travelers' immune system. During space flight, there is a rise in secretion of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, which are known to suppress the immune system, said Satish, who is a researcher at Johnson Space Center. In keeping with this, we find that astronauts' immune cells, particularly those that normally suppress and eliminate viruses, become less effective during spaceflight and sometimes for up to 60 days after. That could be dangerous during long spaceflight missions, such as one soaring, I don't know how they're trying to say that, to Mars, research said. In a total of 89 astronauts on a short space shuttle mission, and 14 out of 23 on a long one showed signs of the virus. These frequencies, as well as the quantity of viral shedding, are markedly higher than in the samples from before or after the flight or from matched healthy controls. So that's a scary thought. They have this stuff that could be lying dormant and you're going to come out because of the stresses of space travel. But you wonder, how did the aliens get around that? Does it affect them? Yeah. I don't know. I'm just wondering.
How did Captain Kirk get away with it?
Transporter beam, and they have gravity.
I mean,
there's no stress there. They have anti-gravity.
Of the green alien chick that he hooked up with.
Hottest sci-fi alien chick ever. Yes.
Yep.
By far. All right. Let's move on to this next one here. This is from Express.co.uk. UFO sighting. Did NASA photograph an alien space station in orbit around Saturn? I've seen this very viral. A lot of people sharing this. Saturn's flying saucer-shaped moon, Pan, is a camouflaged alien space station in disguise. A prominent UFO expert astonishingly claimed Saturn has a staggering number of 53 moons confirmed by astronomers and another 9 waiting to be confirmed. Out of these, 53 natural satellites of the ring planet's innermost moons are some of the most peculiar objects in the solar system. Snapped by NASA's historic Cassini space probe 2017, the moons were revealed to be shaped like ravioli dumplings. The peculiar round shape with a thin ridge jutting out from the moon's equator is oddly reminiscent of this classic flying saucer alien spacecraft. The revelation has prompted popular UFO hunter Scott C. Waring, who runs the website UFO Sightings Daily, to speculate one of the moons could be an alien space station. Mr. Waring explained, "Here's an interesting find. There is a moon of Saturn that looks just like the classic flying disc." And yeah, it does. I saw a lot of people sharing this. It's interesting. But I mean, it doesn't. It still looks. I don't know. It still looks like it's a piece of rock. Mr. Ring explained, here's an interesting find. There's a moon in Saturn that looks just like a classic flying disc. Planet Saturn has 53 moons at the moment. I say at the moment because advances in tech made new information available daily. More may be found in the coming years. It does kind of look like it could be a spaceship. I mean, who knows? Aliens could disguise their ships like asteroids. I don't know, but it doesn't have like the symmetry like perfect or anything like that. It'd be
Picture
like
on
a
the right.
3-year-old. Go ahead.
Picture on the right's kind of making me hungry. It does look like ravioli or tortellini.
Yeah, tortellini or something. But it's not like the sports model,
Yeah, no, definitely not.
All right. Let's move on. We're on the last one for UFOs here. And aliens beware space herpes. But this last one is you're going to listen to some pilots near Las Vegas. Hold on a second, Rob, before you play it. Another odd incident of a pilot reporting a UFO to air traffic control occurred this past weekend near Las Vegas and featured a pair of peculiar details. The encounter reportedly took place on the evening of March 16th as a medical helicopter was flying approximately 15 miles west of the city. During the fight, the pilot apparently noticed something unusual sharing the sky with him and alerted ATC to the puzzling interloper. According to the pilot, he spotted some sort of object at an altitude of 7,000 feet in the general vicinity of the hospital in Vegas metro area. As to what it might have been, the witness mused, it could be a balloon or something along those lines. I noticed that it was unlit. In response, the controller informs him that he does not see anything on his radar in that location, but concedes that this does not necessarily indicate that there's no object there. Then things get a bit weird as the pilot goes on to explain that he's wearing night vision goggles, can only see the object by the way of the specially designed gear. The controller then offers a rather remarkable reply, marveling, "Oh, that's awesome." Strangely enough, the exchange ends without there any resolution as to the nature of the object. You know how many times that probably happens?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and and play the audio.
You hearing that?
No.
No.
See University
There,
Medical
hold on.
Center.
I just heard.
21 Las Vegas, ident Las Vegas altimeter 3008. 21 ID 3008. Got with Air Correction Spirit 546, contact Los Angeles Center on 124.62. Good night. 2462, Spirit Wings 546, we'll see ya. First Tier 21, radar contact 15 to UR, Crazy Bravo Airspace. And 21, position checks. And just to advise, it looks like I have some sort of object over the Southern Hills area. Looks to be about 7,000 feet. Could be a balloon or something along those lines. It's just unlit, so just advise. Okay, I'm not seeing anything in that area, but that's not to say, like you're saying, there's something out there. Yeah, I can only see it. I got night vision goggles on. I can only see it through the goggles. Oh, that's awesome.
I'm sure the pilot thinks that's awesome. Oh, that's awesome, dude.
2893 through 4,000, climbing via the SID to 19,000. Right there, 2893 Las Vegas departure, radar contact, climbing me.
And that's it for the World Wide Web of Weird. There's much more than that people, some of this stuff gets released, but you know how many times this probably happens and they never tell anybody. It doesn't get to the media, because they don't want to risk their careers or whatever. I mean, there's definitely more openness about it now. I got a little rant here before we get to commercial break. So we've talked about on the show about your phones listening to you and Facebook stealing your data. Well, here's an interesting story. So last night, my wife's talking about all these home food delivery services. She's looking on her phone, searching it up. Me, I put my phone away. It's just sitting on the end table. It's turned off. Actually, there's rain playing probably. No, I don't think I turned the rain sound on yet. It's just there, and we're talking about it, and I go to bed. What happens when I wake up in the morning and I decide to check my Facebook? All these food advertisements in there. Now, somebody answer this question. Is that because my wife was looking it up? We share an internet. We don't share Facebook. It's her account, my account. How did it know? It had to be listening. It had to be listening.
Thing has happened to us.
Oh, it's happened before. Yeah, it had to be listening.
Figure it out. Was it our IP or were they listening?
Remember, we had that story in the World Wide Web of Weird where the guy and his wife decided to pick something. They didn't own any cats, so they decided to use that cat food, and they just talked about cat food. But they never looked it up. They never searched it. And the next thing you know, they had all this cat food advertisements. I swear, all my Facebook line has been that. been that. Now there's like a lawsuit going out there about them listening on you and stealing your data and selling it. And they're still doing it. Obviously, they're not afraid of the lawsuit because they just did it to me last night. Totally listen in. Here I am streaming on Facebook. I love the platform. I love to be able to stream. We have this platform where we can go, hey, look at me and my life, you know, and, you know, we're letting the government see everything about us. That's great, whatever, you know, but it is a platform. It's great for us people that want to broadcast. But do you have to listen to me when I don't have you on to sell me stuff? You know, to try to sell me stuff? Seriously, that's what it did. It listened to me. I don't see any other way. I mean, you know, maybe because it was the same IP address. I don't know, but that's scary too. But I swear it's because it listened. I never looked up any of those food things.
That explains all the weird ads I get on my Facebook page.
Yeah. Oh no, it's totally what it is. They were totally listening to me. So I've like been waiting. I've maybe rushed through the World Wide Web weird tonight because I wanted to get to my rant on that. I'm sorry. But
you know what else, Jason? There was a day that I told Jeff all I wanted to do was eat pizza and chill today. So I get on my Snapchat. The sticker that came up was, let's eat pizza and chill.
You know, I mean, somebody needs to come out of a product that said the phone that doesn't listen to you.
Yeah.
You know, the phone that's like your husband. You know, or like your wife, you know.
You know, we still have the freaking Alexa thing, and just every once in a while.
I won't get it.
Yeah, it's like.
But obviously, I'm stupid because it's my phone's doing it to me, anyways.
Yeah, exactly. And your TV and whatever else.
You know, I've always been those ones like, oh, the government's watching. I'm like, hey, let them watch me pick my ass. Whoops. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, whatever, you know. But now I'm a little pissed. I'm a little pissed because, I mean, it's happened more than a few times now, but this was like, for sure. It was immediate. And that's crazy. And that's AI. I mean, Skynet is the internet.
Yep.
All right, guys. We're going to go to commercial break. When we come back, we're going to have our guest, Bill Bean, and our special guest, Anita Intenzo, and her son, Chris. And we're going to talk about all things weird, unusual, paranormal, demonic. Definitely going to get into demonic. That always brings the people to watch, I know, the dark side. But we're going to get into that. We'll have phone lines open later in the show. So I had somebody already trying to call in at the start of the show. You're going to have to wait. Wait till later. Later in the show, we will have the phone lines. All right, guys. Don't forget, go to our Patreon page. If you like the show, you want to help us out, we got a $1 a month or a $2 a month. $2 a month, you're going to get some special stuff coming up here in April. That's only for the people who do the $2 a month on Patreon. Your help gets us where we need to go. We are working on bringing us on the podcast area as well, and we're going to be doing more stuff that's exclusive to Patreon. So go to our Patreon. You find the links in the description of the show. All right, guys, be back after this short commercial break.
You were brought here for one purpose, necromancy.
A ceremony dating back to the pre-Christian era. It's the art of reviving the dead. It requires involvement with evil spirits by the person performing the act.
The devil god brings life to the dead.
No, please. No, please, no.
And death to the living. Necromancy. Starring Orson Welles and Pamela Franklin. From Cinerama releasing. In color, rated PG. Parental guidance suggested.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brown on his 3-week bi-weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and InterfaceDeath.net.
He is conducting an experiment into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Hello, I am Fernando Martinez. I think by now you know I am an emotional kind of guy. People stop me in the street and say, Fernando, what the hell is wrong with me? Silk shirt, hairy chest, enough aftershave to drown a household pet, but I still cannot get a woman. I tell them you are an ignorant fool. Without a symbol of power and fertility around your neck, what kind of woman is going to respect you? That is why I have teamed up with Medallion Man, the shop for medallion needs. Medallion Man caters to all levels of masculinity. For the strong, silent type, a medallion the size of a hubcap will say everything that needs to be said. Even singing medallions for the Casanova, who knows music is the food of love. Model trains, dollhouses, diapers, whatever your interest, we've got a medallion for you. Don't forget, every woman knows if you can't support a medallion, you can't support a family.
This is the sound of a space clock aboard a U.S. satellite 180 miles above the Earth. No one winds up this timepiece. It's powered by a tiny battery, a battery that delivers power for years without replacement. Now the same type of battery, the Duracell battery, can bring new reliability and long life to your battery-operated equipment. Radios, cameras, toys, all run far longer. Duracell batteries, the long-distance power cells, outlast any ordinary battery. The same type of battery that keeps space clocks running for years can bring long life to anything powered by batteries. Dura, as in durable. Cell, as in power cell. The Duracell battery, made by Mallory.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Switch to DCS ranging.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe, 5x5.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Bill Bean. Bill Bean is a world-renowned spiritual warfare deliverance minister, exorcist, and is known as the spiritual warrior. He's an internationally known author, lecturer, spiritual natural expert as well. Bean is currently appeared on a haunting series several times. He's a regular on George Noory's Coast to Coast AM. He's appeared on Noory's Beyond Belief TV show. Bill has also appeared on the Lifetime movie network series I Was Possessed. Bill's helped people in over 40 different countries, is anointed in the area of spiritual warfare deliverance ministry that addresses anything from curses, blocks, attachments, obsession, oppression to possession by demonic spirits. He also is a life coach, providing guidance and advice on how to be strong in mind, body, and spirit. With great sensitivity and understanding, Bill Bean helps his clients to find solutions to a wide array of life challenges. He works with each client to help them build on their strengths to identify and achieve goals. Life life is about moving forward, Bill Bean says. Jesus said, in order to receive, we must believe. The way to truly break the chains of the enemy is to develop a new mindset and replace fear with faith, strength, and courage. Those are the words of Bill Bean. He's our guest tonight, and he has also brought on with us special guests, Anita Intenzo and her son, Chris. And you might remember them, I mentioned it before, from A Haunting, and Bill Bean's been on A Haunting. Is episode 12, season 7, episode 12, Portal of Doom. It's one of my favorite haunting episodes. If you remember, it's the anthropologist who dies. Anita ends up inheriting that estate, and there's a haunted artifact. And that drew me into that episode right away. Haunted and artifact right there. So we got a great story tonight with that. I know people have been trying to call in already. Just wait. We'll take phone calls after the second commercial break. Just hang in there. But let's go ahead and get to our guest. You there with me, Bill?
I am with you, my brother. Thank you so much for having me on.
I've honestly been kind of stalking you on interviews for a couple of years.
Great.
I've listened to you on several different interviews before, and I was like, one day I got to get this guy on my show, and I kept, like, oh, maybe I'll ask now, and I get booked months ahead, and I'm like, before I get booked ahead, I have to ask you. And you immediately responded, so thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It really is, and I'm glad that we had the opportunity to do so. And boy, do we ever have a lot to talk about.
We do, and some we'll get to them here in a little bit, but some incredible photos tonight, guys. If anybody's listening, you might want to come watch, because there are some incredible photos we're going to show tonight from when you went to Anita and Chris's home.
Yeah, and that was in November. It was actually on November 18th, 2018, so it was this past November. And it certainly was an unforgettable experience, to say the least.
And when did that A Haunting episode come out, Portal of Doom? How long ago was that?
I think that was, I want to say 2015, somewhere around there, 2014, 2015. Jason, I get so busy, my schedule is so hectic. Everything is like a blur to me now. So I would guess it was somewhere in 2014, 2015.
Well, let's bring Anita and Chris on. You guys there with us?
Yes. Hi, Jason. Good evening, and hi, Bill.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Anita. Hi, Chris. And Anita, what was that date, the airing of that A Haunting episode, Portal of Doom?
That aired December 28th, 2014 was the first episode, and then they did the enhanced version in September of 2015, Bill. So you're right about those two dates. It was 2014 and 2015, and that was demonic possession that they did the enhanced version, and that was maybe like almost a year later that they did that with the subtitles on the bottom to bring people up to date what had happened in that ensuing year since when they first aired that first part of the episode.
And here we
are.
As
we talked, Jason, boy, that was really a powerful episode. As we talked off air, it really was, in my opinion, as you know, I've been involved in many episodes of the A Haunting series based on my case files and in my own personal story as well. But that was certainly one of the more powerful episodes, certainly that I've been involved in, and, in my opinion, in the history of that series.
Oh yeah, it's up there as one of my favorite Haunting episodes. So when you offered to have them come on the show, I was right. There was no second thought about it. I pretty much knew who we were talking about when you said that, because I heard I heard an interview with them before. I don't know if it was last year. I might have heard it. The Kevin Baker show, I think it was.
Oh yeah, that was that was recent. Let's see. You guys, I believe they've been on there a couple times now.
Yeah, I know. I listened to one of them once because I tune in, and I thought, man, just to think about it, you had your famous A Haunting episode, your paranormal experience, Bill. To me is another really, really, really good, memorable episode. But to see all that come together, to see you two come together from that series, and work together, and this is still going on. Here we are, 2019, 5 years later, and the story continues. I feel very privileged I get to talk to you guys tonight because I'm such a fan of that series of shows.
You know, when you look back on this, Jason, you know, for me, God had a calling for me before I came into this world. And so with such a calling, I think the devil was literally trying to kill me to prevent me from getting to where I'm at right now, God working through me, helping people. I don't claim to be any special one or anything like that. It's just that God has chosen me to work through me to help people to become free from evil. So I'm eternally grateful and thankful to God for that. But I feel that it was necessary for me to have had that level of suffering and to have those experiences in order to be where I'm at right now as a spiritual warrior for God and helping others to become free from that garbage. So it was all a necessary part of the journey.
How old were you when your family went through that what you had in the haunting episode? How old were you when that happened?
Yeah, well, I was actually 4 years old, but in the haunting episode, they pushed my age up, and I guess it was due to not wanting another actor or whatever, you know, another child actor or whatever it was. And I'm very, I appreciate very much A Haunting and New Dominion Pictures and Tricia Dozier, who's a good friend of mine over there. I very much appreciate them airing my story in the first place. And then, you know, after that took place, Jason, that's what put me on the map. You know, that story aired, and these hauntings, they go internationally. So I started getting messages from people from all over the world. And some of these people were telling me that they were suffering, you know, similar things. And at that point in time, you know, that initial episode aired on September 7th, 2006, and they're still showing it to this day. It's just amazing. And but that's what put me on the map. And so I started getting contacted from people, and at that point in time, I was still not free from all of the demonic garbage that had taken place, and I still had demonic strongholds built over me, and it wasn't until I decided to make God first in my life, and then my wife and I got baptized together after that, and that's when everything changed. I was finally free from all of it, and so not only was I free from it, then God put a calling on my life. I didn't do this on my own accord. I would never in a million years would I think to go and engage in spiritual warfare. That was the furthest thing from my mind.
Yeah, you know, lived it.
God put this calling on me, and so I resisted it for a while, but then I couldn't resist it any longer, and I began to engage in deep studies of the Bible and ancient history and ancient religions, stuff like that. And with that, you know, God blessed me with wisdom and knowledge, and He certainly has far beyond anything that I could ever imagine in my life. And again, I'm thankful to God for everything. And so that gave me the confidence, because in the beginning, I have to tell you, I thought, you know, what in the world? I can't help anybody. You know, I'm still in a bad place. How in the world am I going to help anybody make a positive difference in somebody's life? But after, again, I made the decision to, you know, really make God first in my life and then dedicate myself to studies to broaden my intellect. And with that, you know, the confidence came. And then I felt, well, maybe I can, you know, maybe God really can work through me in some way to help people. And so I started to really embrace the idea. And then I became a non-denomination, an ordained minister, non-denomination. And after that, I started answering the calls for help. And then, you know, here we are, hundreds and hundreds of cases later. And it was, you know, one of the greatest decisions that I ever made in my life. The greatest decision was to make God first in my life. So, you know, here we are now. And I just look back when I have moments of pause and being able to look back, I shake my head. I just can't believe that God is working through me in this way. And just, it's a never-ending journey. You know, I constantly travel, and I get calls for help or emails for help every day, every single day. And there are follow-up calls with clients as well, or families, whatever the case may be. So it is an arduous task, to say the least, but It is the greatest thing in life to know what your purpose is. And again, I'm very, very thankful to God for that.
And then that brought you together with Anita and Chris.
Yeah.
How did you guys end up coming together? I mean, who got
Well,
hold
I'll
of
let
who?
Anita tell you that part. Yeah, go ahead, Anita.
Jason, we had this haunting. It goes almost 10 years now. In fact, it was 10 years in January that it started. But we were made in contact with Bill Bean. Someone on Facebook contacted me after I had posted some very strange and unusual pictures that we had taken in our living room. And it was handprints we had never seen before on my glass top coffee table. And this was in like early 2013. And I had never encountered something like that. As far as some of the other paranormal activity that was already going on in our house. So when I posted up on Facebook, I asked if anyone had ever experienced something like that, or if they knew more about this. And luckily, someone who was on my feed on Facebook, who had seen my posts from some of the other things I had talked about and had known about, that I was writing a book at that time, she contacted me and said, I don't like what those pictures, really entail, Anita. I think you've got some real problems. And that's the first time she mentioned it could be something more serious than maybe just poltergeist or just other activity that we thought was more benign. So what she did was she said, I'm going to send you the name of a person who is not far from you on the East Coast. We live outside Philadelphia, and I didn't realize that Bill, I never heard of Bill Bean before because I wasn't traveling in the paranormal community circles. A lot of the things was all new to us that we were even involved with this type of journey. And she gave me, she says, I'm going to just email Bill Bean on your behalf and have him get in touch with you, which Bill did the next day. He immediately was in touch with me. I explained to him what we had been through in the last 4 or 5 years. And he said, well, I'm going to give you a call tomorrow morning. Just let me know what's a good time to talk. So that's what we did Monday. He called me. I spoke to him about in length what we were feeling and what we felt like very, very strange happenings were going on and seemed to be threatening now. So he made his schedule cleared off. He says, I'm going to get there as soon as possible. And I'll tell you, Jason, it was amazing to me to have a complete stranger that Bill was to us at that point, who would show such an interest in what we were dealing with and how sincere and willing he was to help us, that I was just blown away that he would come a 2-hour drive from where he is in Maryland to come and see us and see exactly what we were talking about and what kind of problems we were having. So that's what Bill did. He, within several weeks, he was able to come up and visit with us. But immediately when he pulled up to our house, we did not know at the time because we had never met Bill before, but he got a sense of what was going on in the house. He could immediately feel that was something not right. And when he entered the house, I'll tell you, my son and I, when we met Bill, it was like we were meeting an old friend. We couldn't believe the instant connection we had with him, how peaceful and calm we felt in his presence. And we knew that we would be validated. We knew someone would believe us when we told him and showed him some of the evidence and things we had been dealing with for since 2009, and that the rest is history. Bill came, he went through the house. He spent all day here to do a cleansing ritual. He did the prayers and was able to kind of confront some of the real negative energy that it was building up for a while in the house, and he was able to clear that out. And once we had that sort of feeling that, yes, here's someone's on our side, and he's battling confronting evil things of a demonic nature, which was the first time we had heard that term be applied to what we were dealing with in the house. I had never even thought of that as something, along those lines. But when Bill saw the evidence of the handprints on the coffee table and then other things that we showed him pictures of and described things that my son and I had happened to us, he then was able to put a label on it and actually show us and tell us what we were dealing with so we can understand. And knowledge is power. Once Bill was able to lead us to what to expect or what we can learn to protect ourselves, that has been the greatest help to us, because we're able to live our lives and deal with the type of activities and things we've been through the last 10 years and still stay sane and not be, in a straitjacket, because it's all because of our faith and knowing that Bill's got our back. And he's been to our house now at least a half a dozen times for booster shots, we call it, that we just don't know what we would have been without Bill being in our life, because we actually had someone who knew what we had been dealing with because he related from his own experience. So it's been such a blessing in our life that Bill is connected with us. And I just know I had prayed about it, that someone would find us and help us out. We had a few false leads and other people didn't pan out, or no one would get back to us. But it was just, this was meant to happen. This was meant for us to meet with Bill.
I have friends and people that have called in the show and that have live in houses that seem to have like the kind of activity you have, and a lot of people turn them down, and it's hard for them to get help. So that's why I've always wanted to have you on, Bill, is because I hear the honesty in your voice when you talk about these cases, and you're not out for showmanship. You're out to you're not trying to collect evidence or have a TV show. You're out to help people, and that's the first take I got from you when I first heard you interviewed. And to me, that's what people need, because I went through an experience that, like you said, these things they prey upon you, and what preyed upon me wanted to drive me insane. It put me in the loony bin or hurt people or both. And
I believe it.
And I'm a firm believer in that. I to be honest and open with you guys, I'm a Gnostic. I'm not Christian. I'm not anything. I believe in God. I'm a spiritual Gnostic. I believe in another side. I definitely believe in God because God saved me. I'm no doubt in my mind God saved me, because that's who I called to save me when I was being levitated up off my bed. I totally believe it. I want to ask the handprint, Bill. What was it in the handprint that you saw? I was like, I need to get over there.
Well, it was more than that. I mean, again, Jason, I don't claim to be anything. I'm just who God has made me to be, and God works through me, and I'm thankful for that. But He gives me a knowing of things. That's the best way to say it to you. Sometimes it's just like information that automatically comes into my head. Sometimes it's pictures. I can't say that God has personally spoken to me, so I can't tell you that I've heard His voice personally speak to me. I don't believe that's the case, but He is communicating with me by giving me this information that I would never know, would have no idea, but He gives this to me when I make contact with somebody or I'm going to their home or whatever it is. And He did that, with Anita and Chris in the house. And so it was not just they had these childlike fingerprints, but there were other prints as well. And I'll tell you, one of the handprints was very, very disturbing on the bathroom mirror. And I've seen this before, and I saw it in my own case, that this looked like a reptilian type of handprint. This was a large print.
And was it long fingers?
Yes.
I've seen that myself.
So they're very real. And when I saw that, I thought, boy, there's serious problems here, because we know that those types of entities, they are absolutely demonic in nature, and they are part of the devil's kingdom. And let me tell you, when they're present, some real bad stuff can happen. So that really alarmed me when I saw that handprint there. And let me tell you this, Anita and Chris, they're wonderful people. There's no fakery. There's no dishonesty, nothing like that taking place. I love them dearly. They're like family to me now. But I knew from the beginning that there was nothing fraudulent or anything that was misleading or fabricated or exaggerated. I just knew that because, like Anita said, when I got on my vehicle, even before I got out of the vehicle, as I'm coming down the road, in the proximity of the house, and then I come upon it, I could feel the presence of evil there. So I had no doubt about it from the very beginning, and that goes back to the initial contact with her, that God had given me a knowing of the situation and put an urgency on my spirit that I needed to go and help them, and he certainly would work through me to get rid of the garbage. Now, here's the thing also, is that it's unfortunate in some cases. There are some cases, some clients that I can go to, God will work through me, and they never have another problem again. And I'm very thankful for that. But there's other cases and other clients that, I go back to their homes, like Anita said, I've probably been there half a dozen times or more. And that goes for other people as well around the country. And for whatever reasons, I don't know if the devil's coming after people like Anita and Chris harder than the usual person, or if there is some kind of, my guess is that there is some kind of portal that either activates somehow within the home or is above the home in the sky. And then these things could come through in that way and then find their way back in. Whatever the case may be, there are some people and families that are faced with this over and over and over again, and it becomes that battle. So that's where warrior mode comes in. And so I talk about this all the time, Jason, is that we have to stay in warrior mode, which is faith, strength, and courage. There's no way I could do what I do without the power of God and without being in that type of faith, strength, and courage. In my position, in my position as a deliverance minister, I can't show any fear. So if I go into a situation like that, I have to be rock solid in my faith, because if a man or a woman goes into a situation like that and they are overcome by fear, it's over with. It's over for that person. It's over for the people that they're trying to help, and the devil has won a battle there.
Well, the thing is with Anita's case, I mean, if I'm right, I mean, maybe I have it wrong because I haven't read your book, Anita, but your friend Paul in the show episode, he died and left you a lot of artifacts. They're still there, right? I mean, you still have all those artifacts.
Yes. Unfortunately, some have been distributed. Some people have emailed me and asked if I would like to sell a few things, and I've done it with caution. They would know exactly what they were getting, and and they're usually paranormal investigators that were just trying to see if there's energy on particular artifacts. We know, and Bill can verify that there's certain artifacts in certain areas in the basement that tend to be very, very strong with a portal-like type of area. And Bill's right about it opens and closes at times, because not only of the myriad artifacts, I have so many different types of artifacts from all different cultures from around the world, because my friend, he was a world traveler, but also my property is very old also. We happen to be on property that dates to 1700s as far as being inhabited by early Welsh Quakers that settled outside of Philadelphia in the 1700s. And when we bought our house, it's a Cape Cod, but it's actually in the foundation of an 1800s farmhouse. So the only thing that's original still a part of the structure is an old fireplace that's in the basement. And in one of the pictures I think I sent to you was Bill in front of a wall with a potbelly stove that actually juts out from the original old fireplace with the old bricks. And why they kept that, I'm really not sure why they decided to keep this fireplace in the basement. But we're in the foundation, and the basement is pretty well structured, I think, to outline what the original old farmhouse was. I don't think the gentleman had to even do the foundation. I think we are actually of the old foundation. So not only do we have this type of early history of people living and dying just because of the amount of years that people have occupied this property, but because of also the artifacts I brought in from my friend. And at the time, I had no idea that things could be attached to artifacts. That's how naive we were all about any of this because, as I said, we weren't paranormal investigators. I was an executrix for my friend who died suddenly in 2009. I had to go and claim his body. They had called me, and suddenly I find myself, that I didn't even have time to grieve that my friend had passed away. He had a heart attack, and he was only 55 years old. And when I was tasked to be the executor of his estate, it took my son and I over 10 months to clear out the house because he was a collector, also a hoarder, and his family, his mother and father who died before him, also had hoarded so many things that when we walked in, my son said to me, "Do you want to just close the door and just forget about this?" Because he says, "I can't believe we've got to do this." But there was no one else that I knew my friend could trust. He had asked me to be executor only several years before he passed away, never with the idea that it was going to be that soon. But I just made a conscientious effort that I was going to live by the promise I made to him. I spent another year even after when we finally sold the house to finish up his estate because of all the financial things that we had to take care of for his charities and things that he left people. But the house itself was, not conspicuous. It was just a regular bungalow. And when we entered the house, we had no idea that we were spending 10 months of real paranormal activity happening in the house. And it didn't start right away. But as we started clearing things out for people in the will, there was certain people had to get paintings and different collections of things that he had willed to them. It was like it was a treasure hunt. You didn't know what you're going to find in the hundreds of boxes that were stacked in the basement. The paperwork was just in piles that were 3 feet high, and I went through every single piece of paper, and that's all documented in the first book that I wrote, A State of Horror, which talks about all that we did and the complications that happened when paranormal activity started in his house. Within a few months that we started moving things out of the house and started giving things away. And we had no idea what we were dealing with because we had never confronted something like that. So luckily we had presence of mind. My son got out our old camcorder. We started filming, we started recording, and I kept a diary. And that all then transpired into a book, but I never dreamed that was even going to happen. I just wanted to get through the day so we could get through and pack up what we needed for the day and get out of there, because when you have things being thrown at you and things being smashed against the wall and you're seeing shadow figures and you're having a voice tell you to get out of the house and being threatened physically, which my son and I were both thrown to the ground on different occasions, that was just a frightening experience, and we couldn't wait to get out of there. But not knowing while we were moving the artifacts that he had willed to me, the logical thing was me just to move them to my basement because it was pretty empty. And I thought, well, I'm not going to put this in a storage unit because I need to go through these things, and I'll have them in the house and I'll just take my time after we get the house settled. But we didn't want to be in the house any longer than we had to. But not knowing that I was actually infecting my house or actually opening up something that was kind of dormant here, that there might have been, spirits or, ghosts or whatever you want to call entities that were very complacent and didn't bother us that we were here. But then when I brought the artifacts from another location, boy, that did not sit well. And you had a war going on between, the spirits that lived here or were here already and what we brought as sort of transferred these objects. And boy, it created a horrible situation, which we didn't know until 2 months after we closed his house and closed the estate, that we started having paranormal activity in the house on December 24th, on Christmas Eve of 2009. And it continues till now. So it's 10 years later that we still have activity, but not to the way it was at the beginning before we met Bill and after Bill's been here. But they just want to let you know that, oh, you're ignoring me. I think I'm going to break something, or I'm going to knock something down or throw something across the room so you know that we're still around. And it's like, okay, so when Bill says warrior mode, yeah, you've got to be on your guard all the time. And boy, that's not easy to do, that you have to be on your guard. But they want to keep you unbalanced. They want you to keep you, doubting your faith and doubting your sanity. But we're just really strong in our resolve and we believe deeply in the light of Christ And that's carried us through so many hard times. And we're not going anywhere. This is our house. They need to leave, not us. So, they're not going to scare us out of our own home, because I've spent too much time here as a single parent, blood, sweat, and tears, keeping my house together, raising my son as a single parent, and, working 4 jobs at one time, just to keep things together. And, I know what hardship is. I took care of sick parents for 6 years. My dad had Parkinson's. My mom had heart problems. And by the time I was helping to take my friend's estate, I was taking care of that, taking care of my parents' house with 2 of them sick, and also my own house, and trying to keep my business going, that I was a freelance artist. And believe me, like people say, can you do something? Yeah. I mean, like, what do you need done? I mean, I do not shirk from any kind of challenge, because I have been challenged so much in my life, and it's only made me stronger. I don't whine about it. I don't complain. I just do what I have to do. And you just keep moving forward. And these paranormal things that are happening to us, we're putting them on the periphery. We don't want to deal with them. We have our life. We have a life that my son and I have built here. He has a business that I help him out with, his hobby store, and I have my own work to do. I've written 2 books in the last 10 years, and Chris is writing. He's trying to put together his own book from his own experiences, and and I've contributed to Bill's new book, which hey, I'll do what I can to keep moving forward and use my talents for good. And keeping the faith all the time.
We got to get these experiences out there to people, because, I went through my experience. I felt completely alone. And how many people are living in a house like you did? Maybe not like you did, because they don't have ancient artifacts in their basement. But they, people I've known, we've had them call on the show. We've had them as guests. People go through these experiences, and they, if they're not into the paranormal, have no idea about any of this stuff. You can feel kind of isolated and alone. Who are you going to tell and talk to about this? They need to hear these stories.
Yeah, and that's the game plan as well. Go ahead, Anita.
I mean, definitely what Bill's saying. That's why I wrote the first book. I had no intention of writing anything. I just wanted to keep a documentation of what we experienced, because it was just so unique. And having where we were the only 2 people really allowed in the house, because I was executor, I wasn't allowing other people coming in unless we would ask them, do you want to just help us take out trash today? Because I just can't do this by myself. I mean, it was just, and I paid for it dearly with a bad back and arthritis in my hands and a thyroid condition that, it's from all the stress of dealing with all that for so many years. But at the same point, if I didn't have Christopher as my rock over here, that he helped me so much to be at the house, that he would not let me go alone. He says, Mom, you can't go there and do some paperwork or whatever you need to do by yourself, because it's not safe. So he would go with me. But he did have several friends that would come for a day and help us out. Just as I said, help us just do the heavy lifting. But they would come in skeptical and leave at my friend's house, believers. They said, I can't believe what I just saw. Or you told us, you warned us that it might be kind of strange. But we didn't know. We weren't up for an entertainment venue. I wasn't asking people to come in, see what we have. We have ghosts in this house. I was trying to be respectful of my friend's house, too, and what legacy he left. And, you just didn't want to make a circus out of it. But it was really tough that we were keeping this to ourselves for many months. And finally, I had to talk to the lawyer who was handling the financial part of the estate. And I said, you can't believe what we're dealing with over here. And finally, when we had a really bad experience near the end, when we had sold the house, we had a day we went into the house and all hell broke loose. It was just crazy. Things were happening. And I called the lawyer and I said, you got to get your assistant over here and see what's happening, because we're not staying in here. We need somebody to come in here and see what we're dealing with, because we're having a real problem at the house. We had a flooding situation, what we did not know it was even going to happen. It was all seemed to be against us, because we had signed away that morning at the lawyer's office to have the house sold. And it's like we walked in the house and the spirits, whatever it was there, didn't like it. And banging on the walls, banging through the floor. things being thrown at us, water leaking from the bathroom that we didn't know where the leak was coming from. It flooded the basement.
Oh, wow.
We had, while we're trying to scoop up the water and put it into the sump pump we had just had built, because we feared that was really the turning point when we had to have the sump pump dug in the basement because of the black mold and flooding. Then things just really revved up even more, that it was really disturbing the atmosphere of his home, which for so many years was very complacent. The basement had been filled up with so much stuff and artifacts. And as I said, it took us so long to go through everything. But that moment, we realized we could be really in danger. And we called on, our faith to protect us. And it just seemed like they were mocking us, that we were calling for help. And they would there would be aluminum ladder got thrown, buckets where the water we were trapping from coming through the upper floor were being thrown across the room.
Oh, wow.
We had a metal shovel just would be thrown against the wall. A piece of ceiling, a Celtex ceiling piece, got flipped from one part of the basement towards us like a Frisbee. And it was just like, we didn't even know what more could be thrown at us and help us out. So then, and Chris he was trying to get the water brushed out into a corner where the sump pump drain was, and he actually saw footprints walking through the water. Black footprints. And that's
my God, that gives me chills.
Yeah, he said, Mom, you got to get down there. Somebody's walking through the water here. And I knew that can't be good. And it was just a violent confrontation that we were just so glad. I go, you know what? I'm just glad we sold this place. These guys are going to gut the place and whatever they need to do, but we're not going to tell them what we've experienced, because I don't want them, I mean, and unfortunately, they didn't seem to have any problem when we had done most of the cleaning out of the house, but they completely gutted the place, and they actually asked us to come back to see the place about 6 months later, and we couldn't believe it was the same house. And the basement was made into a media room. But one thing that lingered, and my son looks at me, he says, "Did you see the workroom? They left the father's workbench. This big workbench must have been too heavy to move." And Chris said, "That's not good. I wouldn't want to leave that workbench, because that was just an old piece. But that was a center of a lot of activity that, tools would come from the workbench and things got thrown onto the workbench." But we just said, well, we hope that whoever lives here is going to be okay. But the house is sold and been resold 4 times over.
I was just going to ask, how many times has it been resold since? Wow.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. I don't know if it's just by chance because people move in and out there, but we haven't stopped by in the last 10 years to see anything different. We know they've done a great deal of work on the house. We drive by it all the time as we go to Chris's store, but it doesn't look like anything out of the ordinary. And I said people would not know what went inside that house that we experienced unless they read my book. So, and then my second book, Dark Transference, is about all the stuff we experience now, in the house, and just the crazy amount. It's like a smorgasbord, as Bill said. He said, you have so much going on over here, Anita, because so many lives have lived and died. And then the portal, he said, you're just getting everything and anything you could imagine wants to just capitalize on this opening. And, you don't know what you're going to get through here. And he's right, because it's just been crazy, the amounts of experiences we've had, since, he's been here to different times, but he's made a big difference. Bill, having him come here, I just don't know where we would be if we didn't have him, settle this stuff down and really tell us what we're dealing with.
You could be in danger. I mean, just look at what you're going through. I mean, it could have built up to what it ended up being at Paul's house. It could have been that. It could have been that in your home eventually if it built up to that enough. There's a correlation, I'm interested, Bill, that I've made on this show with hauntings. I'm just a paranormal investigator, but I've had a number of locations where I noticed where there seemed to be multiple houses that were haunted in a certain area. There was also multiple people who were hoarders. I've encountered that more than once. I don't know if you've ever noticed hoarding and hauntings coinciding.
Absolutely. And the reason for that is that the devil is all about, of course, evil and negativity, but he's also about order out of chaos. So he wants chaos in the person's life. He wants the person to be unclean, unkept, He wants the person to just literally be isolated in a mountain of objects to where they're now overwhelmed and literally taken over. And so in my opinion, the hoarding phenomena is every bit as much spiritual and maybe even more so than it is mental.
I've always wondered that because I've encountered that on a couple different investigations. Like, hey, this house is haunted here, and that one across the street's over there, and so is that one, and that one's also got a hoarder, and that one's got a hoarder, and there's another hoarder down the street. We don't know if that's haunted. I've experienced that more than once on an investigation where there was just multiple hoarders in this area that seemed to be haunted.
The devil looks for any way to get in, and once he gets a crack in the door, then he and his minions are going to kick the door in, and they're coming in, and they're going to be ferocious, and their mission is to kill, rob, and destroy, and it's very much bully tactics. So, they will create scenarios, obviously, to create fear in whatever supernatural, paranormal situation it is, and then they want to isolate. So it's the divide and conquer tactics.
Definitely. Now, so when you got to their property, you've been there a few times, I take it now. When was the pictures we're going to show tonight? When were these taken? Was this your first time there, or was this on another visit?
No, this is the most recent, which was on November 18th, 2018. So I've been in regular contact with Anita and Chris. We're always in touch. And she helped me greatly with the preparation of my new book, which is called Stranger Than Fiction. And she also added in content, with her and Chris's ordeal. And so their story is in there. And she added another story, which is something we'll get into later about the UFO aspect.
Right.
And so she had mentioned to me that they were having some things flaring up there. It was starting to intensify, and they were getting to the point again to where they were feeling overwhelmed by these demonic forces. So, Jason, I'm always busy. I'm always traveling, and when I'm not traveling, I'm doing international Skype sessions with people, from all walks of life. But I, again, felt that it was urgent, and I cleared some time in my schedule to go back up there. And this is a Sunday. It was Sunday, November 18th. And boy, this was one long day for me because I had to go to Anita and Chris, and then I left there after that and had to drive an hour and 15 minutes south into a place called Bel Air, Maryland to help the Denoto family. And we could get to that a little bit later, but this was all on the same day and night. And I didn't get home until the wee hours of the morning on the 19th, and I was totally exhausted. But I knew it was serious, and I had to get back up there. So I went, and once again, as I was coming down the street and went into the driveway, I could feel the presence of evil. And then when Anita and Chris opened the door, and I came in with them, and I felt it very strongly in the home. Now, interestingly enough, on this occasion, and I don't normally do this, I don't videotape, I don't take photographs unless the client would say to me, I'd like to record this or whatever, which is very, very seldom. And so in this case, I felt that I was getting a strong message from God to document this via photographs. And I said to Chris, if you wouldn't mind, this time I really feel that God's putting it on me that you need to just walk behind me and take random photographs as I'm going through and binding and casting out this garbage. And that's what he did, and we went all through the house, and he got a couple photos that I believe were angels. And then he got some other photographs, including what you saw there in the basement of some, very disturbing images of what I believe to be demonic entities. And the one is very clear. It's one of the most clear images of a demonic face that I've ever seen, certainly in a photograph. And so I just obeyed what God put on me, and I was glad that Chris did walk behind me. And so the three of us, you know, we walked through the house and went all through the house. And again, I was drawn to the basement, and I feel that that's where the strongest demonic garbage is, down in there. And as we went down the stairs, I was drawn to go over to the potbelly stove where the, you know, it's connected into the chimney there, that block wall. And that was the first place that I went, down in the basement area. I was drawn to go right over there. And, you know, Anita and Chris were standing there with me. And I felt that a portal was opened up again, you know, right there in that area. So I'm starting to seal the portal up, and we heard this, it was like part moan or groan and part growl that came out from inside of that block wall. And I mean, it was very loud. And Anita and Chris, they were right there with me. They heard it just like I did. We all looked at each other. And, you know, just as we're talking right now, the level was pretty strong, you know, the level of that. So it was, we all heard it very clearly. And it came from inside that block wall. And then I just continued on. I don't bat an eye over this kind of stuff because I don't have any fear, and I thank God and praise God for that. I just take power and authority over it. And I say, by the mighty power of Yahweh, in his mighty and holy name, in Jesus' name, I bind and rebuke you and cast you out, and I declare this portal to be closed, shut, locked, chained, and padlocked to Satan and all of his demons forevermore. By the mighty power of Yahweh, in his mighty and holy name, in Jesus' name, it is so. So then that is all part, it's just all about invoking the power of God and staying in that warrior mode, which is faith, strength, and courage, and having the upper hand. And the only way that I can have the upper hand on these demonic forces is by the power of God.
Now, we got Chris there. You took these photos. What were you taking these photos on?
Just my phone. Just the Android phone.
Now, I have the photo that stuck out to me when you guys gave it to me. I think is this one you're talking about, is the demonic face. Now, what's this being reflected on?
So it's on the side of the heater that's down in the basement.
That's what I wondered. You know what it looks like
Jason,
to me? Yeah, go ahead.
Jason, if you look further at that face, look at the. It would be your left, so it's the right side of the entity's mouth, but it'd be on your left.
Yeah.
If you really look at it, you could see fangs coming out of there, out of that mouth area.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. You know, the first thing I thought that it looked like to me, it looked like Marilyn Manson. I'm not joking. It looks like Marilyn Manson.
Well, demon or Marilyn Manson or a disc, either one. I don't know.
It did.
Yeah.
It's very reptilian, very skeletal, very
well, Bill said
very
it looked
alien. It's got a little bit of all three.
Yeah, it looked really alien to us.
Nothing good.
I mean, and it was just so totally
nothing good. That's right.
Well, what I notice about it, it's got a ridge line down the middle of its head.
Yeah,
and the nose is kind of like some kind of ridge of some kind as well, and the eyes are completely black.
Yeah, absolutely.
The black
it's
eyes
almost like a boxer's nose. You know, it's like a nose that looks like it's been broken, you know, many times or whatever, and it's just spread out across the face somewhat. You know, it's like a boxer's type of nose. And but boy, you could sure see them fangs coming down out of the mouth area.
Jamie, what were you saying about the eyes?
That's what struck me at first, was those black eyes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's scary, and I don't see how it could be a mistaking or pareidolia. It's a face. It's got the features. It's something.
It's
there.
so predominant, like when you first see it. Yeah, when you first see it, you see a face. Like there's nothing else you see. You don't see like, oh, it's a reflection. Oh, it's something that was maybe reflected in back here or something you were seeing in front, or maybe it's the camera guy. You look at the picture and you automatically see face.
You can see his head, and you can see his ear.
There's no other thing that you see. You see what looks like almost like a hood, or maybe even like I don't know if they can even say like a helmet type thing, but you see basically like it's hood and it's face because it's so black and it's so white.
Yeah.
And there was another face on there as well. And I don't know, Chris, did you send him that photograph? There was another. So not only was it that face on there, that was the most.
We sent another one.
prevalent.
Yeah.
I think. Let me see if I got. Oh, but that's.
There's
the same
actually
photo.
so much more to that one picture too, at the main face, that we've looked at over and over again. There's so many other parts, like above the face, on the side. There's so many other like little things going on, where there looks like there's a person walking. There's like another kind of like face almost screaming. But there's another couple other pictures that are really kind of crazy.
Can you see this one, Chris? I got it. I don't know if it's a few seconds delay, but it should be up now for you. Is this the other face?
I think it's the one with the jaw. Yeah, with the jaw opening. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was actually the first picture I took before getting the predominant face.
Mm-hmm.
So in this picture, it looks like either a person is screaming, or it looks like kind of where like maybe the jaw is also kind of hanging off its face, or it could be something entirely, maybe a tentacle. I have no idea, but you could see to where it's a face, and then there's like another kind of like white swoop underneath, like either like we say a jawline or something else. But if you look at the main part of the face and you forget about that underneath kind of jaw, and you look at that, it looks very alien.
Okay,
it looks very.
That's what I was
like,
going to get.
like what.
I see.
Yeah, it looks very close to like what you see as a gray alien, as they would say on these shows.
Yes, I was just gonna. That's what I was gonna say. In that background, what I see the clear big eyes alien in the background. There. It's the first thing I thought when I saw this photo. I totally see
very alien. And if you take it all as one picture, you see it almost kind of an old man face. I guess you can kind of say. Or something even entirely. I mean, whatever kind of like your mind's eye kind of like sees.
But there's that ridge that's coming down that reminds me sort of like the other face. But the other one is so different than this one that you took. But also, we sent you when Bill was at the fireplace area. He didn't know it at the time, but when after Bill walked, because you could go in the round in our basement because that center fireplace wall is in the middle of the basement, and Bill can actually do a 360 around the basement. But Chris went to the back door to the basement, and he happened to take several pictures. And what really astonished us was the shadow man, who's been something that we've seen in the house, way back since 2010, but we have not seen him since Bill made one of his visits here. But that it seemed like it has a hat on, and we looked at that in the back. It was almost, he's in the well between the back door, then there's a set of steps that goes out to our storm doors that can go out to our backyard. But there was something there. We saw a shadow man with a hat, then there seemed to be 2 or 3 shadows with something smaller below one figure, and that was like kind of predominant. Like
picture now.
Yeah. Oh, there's a picture of the steps.
We're looking at the picture now where it is with the steps.
Yeah, and there's the shadow man.
And you can see the guy with the hat.
Yeah. And that just verifies what we've had happen. But also we've seen at the top of our steps before we've gone down to the basement. One night we heard a bang 3 o'clock in the morning. Chris heard it first. He woke me up and he said, I heard somebody, I don't know if somebody came in the house. So he grabs a baseball bat. And I don't know what that's going to do. But he gets the baseball bat and we go downstairs and we open the door. And as soon as we put the light on, we see a black shadow just went right across the back downstairs, across the steps. And I go, did you just see that? So it's like there was a shadow, something following Bill, that we got another shot. And I don't know if it was really clear, but it looked like a snake.
Yes,
it
is long, very clear. Let me get that one up.
Kind of thing. Because Bill said, I don't know, there's something in back of me. And Chris said, yeah.
This is one of the creepiest. I have a fear of snakes, so this is one of the creepiest ones to me. It's already bad enough that I've had the shadow person experience. Thank God I haven't had the shadow snake experience, because I would lose my flipping mind. I would lose my mind.
Yeah.
Oh man, I've had the Hat Man experience. I've seen the shadow with the hat. I've had that experience, very similar to that picture you got. But man, I am so afraid of snakes. If I ever ran across, took a picture and saw that, I'm like, I'm done. I'm done.
Well, what was so strange, Jason, is like there was nothing on the floor. It's a concrete floor, but there was something creating shadows, and it wasn't Bill. That there's like just this plain light where it just flooded that part of the concrete floor. And all of a sudden you just pick out, go, wait a minute, what is that?
And there's no light on in the back, so like it's darker than dark.
Yeah, and did you see this?
You have black on black where it's picking up blacker than the dark floor.
Yeah,
so,
and you know there's no lights going through it, so it's something solidifying in that shot, even though we didn't see it.
It gives me the chills. That just creeps me out. A black shadow snake.
Oh, well, you should be at our house, boy. We'll give you some real chills. I mean, we have to laugh at it because we try to keep a sense of humor. And as Bill said, if you let the fear take over your lives, then they've got you. They'll keep a stronghold on you. But we tend to see these things like, okay, they're serious and we need to confront them. But sometimes it's really laughable, some of the antics that that they have a sense of humor. I mean, which is, I don't know if that's to put us at ease or to kind of suck us in. Okay, now you like us, now we can do more things. But, we've had the good with the bad. I mean, we've had benevolent types of things that we know have guarded the house because Bill has called for guardians to watch us. And we feel protected, that when he leaves, we feel a sense like, okay, we're glad Bill was here. We're going to miss that presence, but he's also left us with the calm and the fortitude to keep on, with the mission. So, that's another gift that he's given us.
But there's some places that are, I've just my research and the stories you hear, there just seems to be some places that it's gone away for now, but it will be back. Like there's no way you're going to ever close that door. Is that what I understand, Bill?
Yeah, and I think especially today, with today's technology, I very much believe that the CERN device that works in conjunction with D-Wave quantum computers, I think that device alone is opening more and more portals, in the world and certainly in America. And I think that a lot of demonic entities are coming through those portals. So now, when you factor in that type of, which I believe to be fallen angel technology, when you factor that in with, this phenomenon, it all ties in. And that's why I wrote the book Stranger Than Fiction, because it was my way of connecting all the dots to show that all of this phenomena is connected and related. And we see it, in some of Chris's pictures that you have some of these different types of entities, from things that look like demons to other things that look like aliens. This phenomena is all very much connected. So, again, I'm thankful that I wrote the book. I praise God for helping me to give me a window to be able to write it. And I'm also very appreciative and thankful to Anita for helping me to get it prepared and then out there. So, again, it was something that was very, very necessary in order to, something like she said earlier in the interviews, knowledge is power. So it's very important that people, A, know the truth, and B, once they know the truth, know how to take the appropriate steps to combat these things. And so, like Anita also said, they have sort of an acceptance that these things are going to come and go. I pray that they never, ever come back again. I pray that God will send his angels and take, every entity out of there. But they have the ability, by the power of God, to be able to keep it underfoot to where it is not going to escalate into something that becomes physical attacks and
dangerous.
That causes great danger and stress and torment, all those types of things. So I'm very, very thankful to God for that. So right now, it is what I would call warrior management. That's the best term that I could, put to this right now.
Well, Anita, Chris, I want to thank you guys for coming on the show. I want to get you guys back on because I would love to do a whole show on your guys' experiences because there's so much more to this that we're not going to get to tonight. So I'd love to have you guys back on.
Well, we thank you for the invite, and we can certainly make arrangements with you for a future interview. And we just appreciate so much that you had us on with Bill because it just really gave, I think, your audience a little bit of a flavor of like, here's a man who is fighting for the good, of man's soul every day. And here's two people that have had the experience with him that they, he saved us from, having like really, really serious consequences that if we had accepted, we're not knowing, dealing with this dark entity or these things that is present in our lives that, if without his help, I don't know where we would be. So we really appreciate the opportunity to be on with Bill and to be on your show, Jason. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys, and I'll talk to you soon. Like I said, definitely want to get on. We're going to go to commercial break, guys. When we come back, we will open up the phone lines. Only 2 of the phone lines will be open up tonight. So that'll be the 219-230-4444 or the Skype ID OOJBland00. But call in after the commercial break and just wait because me and Bill got a lot to talk about. So just hang in there until we call upon you. But you will be able to call in after the commercial break. But we are going to go to a short commercial break here. When we come back, we're going to have Bill Bean, and we're going to talk about some of the other... I've been reading his books, Stranger Than Fiction, Spiritual Warrior. There's so many different things. It's a paranormal soup, so there's a lot of topics I want to get to tonight, and I'm sure we got a lot of people trying to call in. I already got people trying to call in that got questions. Just hang in there. We'll get to you. All right, guys, we'll be back after this short commercial break.
Intercepted transmission of unknown origin.
Transmission? Out here?
SOS.
Human.
Unknown.
Alien. Certificate X. Exclusive engagement at the Odeon Leicester Square. Now.
Any systematized transmission indicating a possible intelligent origin must be investigated.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
Paranation Magazine is a new paranormal magazine based out of Denver, Colorado. Our goal isn't just to give you the best paranormal content out there, but to promote paranormal unity. We're doing this by giving everyone an opportunity to tell their stories and to share their experiences. For more information, follow us on Facebook at Paranation Magazine and soon, paranationmag.com.
Knights of the road, here's your stallion. The car for freedom. The car for hot excitement. The car for a man who is alone against the elements.
The Waibatsu Thunder.
The pride is back. It's the power of a compact.
Looks small, but it's so big.
Fuel injected.
Inject me.
My Batsu Thunder. On the toll road of life, you have to pay to prove you can. Live the emotion of an individual.
Thunder.
The awesome power of nature distilled into one vehicle. Because after you get struck by lightning, there's thunder.
The Waibatsu Thunder.
When Alex Gardner is asleep, he has an extraordinary gift. The government wants it, the scientists want it, but to keep it may cost him his life. It might be better if Alex didn't sleep at all, but he cannot resist entering the dreamscape. Can you? See Dreamscape in the West End and all over London now, Certificate 15. It takes an extraordinary adventurer to enter the dreamscape.
This is an APAC studio presentation.
Hey kids, tired of running away from home? Then getting lost and wrapping your big wheel around a cow? Then having no one to turn to other than that weirdo in the van with the dark tinted windows? Or his friend, your creepy Uncle John? Well, worry no more with new OnStar for Kids. Now you can run away in style with an OnStar for Kids kit installed in your big wheel, tricycle, or cute little smart car. Yes, just in time for Christmas, OnStar for Kids. So the next time you're on your way to Granny's house, or Weekend Dad's pathetic little bachelor pad, and you run over a homeless person in your toboggan, OnStar for Kids will clean up the mess, hide the hobo body, and get you there in time for nappies.
This is OnStar. Do you need someone to kiss your boo-boo?
This has been a presentation from Tim Morgan's APAC Studio. For more almost professional amateur comic studio content, visit the APAC YouTube channel. Search APAC 2002. That's APAC 2002 on YouTube.
Edgar Allan Poe wrote Spirits of the Dead with a pen dipped in warm blood. You will see the ultimate in terror with this important all-star cast. Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda in Edgar Allan Poe's Spirits of the Dead. Only Poe's demented genius could bring to the screen such horror and evil. Spirits of the Dead stars Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda. Directed by three masters of the cinema, Federico Fellini, Louis Malle, and Roger Vadim. Spirits of the Dead is an adventure in terror beyond your wildest nightmares. Spirits of the Dead in color is rated R.
That this city is headed for a disaster of biblical proportion.
What do you mean, biblical?
What he means is Old Testament, Mr. Mayor. Real wrath of God type stuff.
Exactly.
Fire and brimstone coming down from the skies. Rivers and seas boiling.
40 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes.
The dead rising from the grave. Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Bill Bean, spiritual warrior. It's, like I said at the beginning of the show, I've been waiting a long time to get him on. I've wanted to pick his brain for a long time. I've listened to a number of interviews with him. He's an incredible man, and I've been reading his book, Stranger Than Fiction, Spiritual Warrior. There's so many. It is a paranormal soup. There's so many different things. It's not just his battles with demons. It's also aliens and Bigfoot and the Mothman. There's so many good things in this book. I definitely highly recommend this book. So check it out. We will have phone lines open here. Only 2 of the phone lines are going to be open tonight. There's the 219-230-4444. Or you can call in by Skype, OOJBland00. Those are 2 ways to call in. When you call in, just hang in there. You'll hear us talk, and when I call upon you, that's when you can talk. But if you call in and we hang up on you, just wait. Try calling back after we get the caller on. Then try calling in. I only got 1 phone line really open tonight with 2 ways to call in. So it will be open. I already got people calling. Just hang in there. We will get you. But me and Bill have a lot to talk about, so let's go ahead and get back into the show. You still there with me, Bill?
I am still with you.
Now, it's like, where do I start? There's so many things I want to talk about. You brought up you had a recent case. I don't know if you want to get into that, because that seemed pretty well interesting.
Yeah, that's the most recent case, and it happened this past Thursday, the 21st, in Oklahoma. And again, I travel all over the country every week. There's not a part of this country that I haven't seen many times over. And again, I'm very thankful to God for putting the calling on me and for working through me in the way that he does to be a help to people. But there's no true understanding of what all of this entails unless a person was to travel with me and see all the things that I have to go through even before I get to a person's residence. For instance, in this case, I had to fly into Oklahoma City and then, get my rental car. I couldn't even check into the hotel. I went straight to the residence. It was a 2-hour drive. And after that, I'm arriving at the residence and prepared for battle. And this was a very large family as well. And they all needed my help, and I performed deliverances over every one of them. And so I was there for quite a while. And how can I say this? I always try to keep the confidentiality,
right.
But there was a young boy involved in this as well. And he had some serious medical issues, but the spiritual issues were also present. And the family has video footage of entities and balls of light and things of that nature that were actually documented going into the child's room. And so there was documented phenomena taking place there. And the best way to describe this with the child was that he was asleep in his crib, and due to the child's medical issues, he's in a crib. And when I walked into the room with the other family members, and I had performed spiritual deliverances for all of them first, and then came to him last, the child was sound asleep when we walked into the room. And yet, as I approached the crib, and probably was within 2 feet of him, he sprang up.
Oh.
So out of a sleep, he sprang up and was wide awake and now standing. So he's standing in the crib, and his eyes were black.
Oh.
And
when you say, hey, Bill, when you say his eyes are black, because you texted me that, is it just the eyes being fully dilated, or is it like completely black?
Yeah, they were completely black. Wow. And which I've seen that before. I've seen people's eyes go all black. I've seen them go all white. I've seen them go all red. I also saw, had a case in San Diego where a lady, she was under voodoo curses, and she was from Africa, and her eyes had gone like a yellowish-greenish color with reptilian slits. So I have pretty much seen it all when it comes to, eyes changing and colors and things of that nature. But this child, God bless him, his eyes were black. And so I began to perform the deliverance. And an amazing thing, during the course of this, the child reached out with both of his hands and grabbed my left hand, and he was just shaking. He was. I really felt that the power of God that comes through me in these situations, it's so strong that it was actually transferring into him. And this child was just shaking and trembling uncontrollably. And prior to this, what prompted the family to contact me, not only were they getting this video documentation, but the child was exhibiting demonic possession symptoms, and he was actually attacking people. So he had superhuman strength, according to them, and he was choking people, especially little children, if they came near him.
What was his
age? And he was biting and scratching. 9 years old.
9 years old. Sorry, I missed that.
Yeah. And so this was the first. They couldn't believe it. The parents and, all the family members were in there, and they couldn't believe that the child had actually reached out. It was gently, it wasn't an attack. He was reaching out with both of his hands, and he grabbed my hand like that, and he was holding on, and boy, he was just trembling. And the power of God worked through me to deliver that boy, and I praise God for that. And it was just amazing to feel it leave him, but not only feel it leave him, so as I'm binding and rebuking and casting out, and I'm taking power and authority over this, and again, I'm saying by the mighty power of Yahweh and his mighty and holy name in Jesus' name, I bind and rebuke any and all demons that might be in, on, or around this boy, and I command you to depart. So now I'm saying this in a very loud and authoritative voice. And as I did that, Jason, the front rail of the crib suddenly dropped. It just dropped down. There's no way that could have happened.
As a parent,
I've had that secured.
I know how those things work. They shouldn't do that.
Yep. It just totally dropped down, and that's when it left the boy. But there is no way that railing just happened to drop. Right. At that time, that was very secure. There's no way it could have dropped like that, but it did. And those things left that boy. And then after it was over with, you could feel the peace come over the child. And then his mom picked him up, and they went into the living room. And so the family was in total just jubilation that the boy was delivered. And of course, they were delivered. There was a lot going on with that family. And I praise God for making the connection to work through me to help them in that way. So it was, they were very much celebrating. And while they were doing that, I had to go through the entire home after that. After these deliverances take place, it's not over. I have to go through the entire home and make sure that there are no demons hiding, lurking, or anything like that. So I have to be very thorough in what I'm doing. And as a matter of fact, when I was in the living room, I opened the living room closet. And so I opened cupboards, closets, everything, attic, sealed the attics, all of it. And so I opened the living room closet door, and this shadow demonic entity shot right out as soon as I opened the door.
Hiding in the closet from you.
They will hide anywhere, basements, closets, under beds, you name it, in the dark places. Yeah. And so the husband was not standing far from me at all. He was like behind me. And he saw it come out of the closet, and he watched it shoot right past him, and it went right out of the house, right through the back of the house.
Wow.
That's what they do. I mean, again, it's not me. It's the power of God working through me, and that's what gives me the power. It's God's power, not mine. And so I could never do this on my own accord. So when we invoke the power of God in that way, those demonic forces cannot withstand that. So it was an incredible night, and certainly the family was celebrating. And I left their home probably somewhere around 2 a.m. Then I had to drive 2 hours back to the hotel, so it was a little after 4 a.m. when I arrived there. Got a few hours sleep, and then had to get up and catch the plane back home. So that's how it goes sometimes. There's times that I don't get any sleep at all, either before I leave or, during the process of that. And same thing with eating. I fast before I go into these situations, but then afterwards, I'm starving, and then I'm looking for something to eat, and most times, the places are closed down. So I got back to the hotel and had a blueberry muffin, and that was good enough for me at least to get something, and then get up and get back to the airport the next day. So, and the bottom line is I'm so thankful and grateful to God that he worked through me to deliver that family, especially that little boy, that it didn't matter if I ate or not. I was just so thankful.
Well, you know better than anybody what these things can do to a family.
Yeah.
They can just tear it apart. I've seen it happen to people. I'm seeing it happen to families in these situations, and it seems like that's the whole point, is to tear the whole family apart.
That's correct. And, it's all about destruction. So it's kill, rob, and destroy. And I've seen it personally. I've lived it. My family was destroyed. I was nearly destroyed as well. And neither of my parents lived to see the age of 50, and a lot of my family members are gone, died under either mysterious circumstances or very tragic circumstances. So I have lived it. I've seen it. And like I stated earlier in the show, that it was a necessary part of the journey for me in order to have the experiences so I can be where I'm at right now. And I'm able to relate to people. You know, this is something that kind of gets overlooked. When people suffer in this way, or even worse things, you know, they're suffering high levels of trauma. And when people are traumatized in that way, they don't trust just anybody to tell their story or information to. Some of these people are very guarded, and they're embarrassed, and they're ashamed to talk about this. So
I know.
It requires someone like me who has had the experience to where they feel comfortable. They feel that, you know, that they can relate to me and I can relate to them, which is true. So therefore, that's a good part of the battle right there, is trusting me and then knowing that God really has made that type of connection, and that God does love them, and God is with them, and God is for them, and God will work through me to take the garbage. And so I take it very personally, Jason. That's why I guess I'm a very intense individual. I love people, would do anything for anybody. But I'm not warm and fuzzy in the sense that, you know, I'm a smiley-faced preacher or something like that, because I'm not. I'm very intense. So the word warrior does apply to me, and I live that way every day of my life. I have to. That's, you know, it's exactly what God has called me to be and who he's called me to be. So I take it very personally, and so in taking it personal like that, there is an intensity and what I call a holy anger that I am committed 100% by the power of God to work through me to get rid of this garbage. And we're not selling for anything less than.
We do have a phone call on the line that's been waiting. Is it all right if I bring on a phone call?
Sure.
Who do we got on the phone line? 979 area code.
Well, this is George from Texas. I got to ask Pastor Bean, because I notice some people go into Deliverance ministry, and they don't anticipate the enemy returning fire if they have a victory. Do you anticipate that?
Yeah, well, absolutely, and it's good to hear from you, my brother, and I will be in touch with you soon, by the way. Yes, and so this is where we have to stay in that warrior mode and keep the devil underfoot. So for me, and I've said this before, I don't care if I'm walking into a situation to where 500 demons are present. It doesn't matter, because if God's with me and for me, nothing is going to stand against me. And furthermore, if there's 500 demons, then I know 1,000 angels are going to come and take them into custody. So that's just the way it is. And furthermore, that night when I left Anita and Chris, and I told you I went an hour and 15 minutes south into that home in Bel Air, Maryland, the family had abandoned that home, and they were living 15 minutes away from there. And I went and performed deliverances, all deliverances for a family of 6, and then blessed that home. Then the husband took me over to the previous residence, and I wanted to show him something because they were in such fear. And so we approached, we're coming up the walkway. Number one, there is, as we're approaching, and this made him even more fearful, there was a shadow-esque demonic entity right there on the sidewalk. I was headed straight for it, and it darted to its left away from me and went right into the house. So when we opened the door, he put the key in, opened the door. He wanted to turn the lights on. I said, no. He said, what do you mean? I said, we're going to go through this entire house, and this is a large home. I said, we're going to go through this entire house in the dark, and I'm going to show you something. I'm going to show you that by the power of God and walking in this warrior mode, even though we're in the dark, God is with us. His angels are here, and no harm is going to come to us. And that's exactly what I did. I went through that entire home, binding, rebuking, and casting out. And it was an amazing experience for him to see that level of faith, and it was inspiring to him to where he really understood that I am in total warrior mode by the power of God. Therefore, I don't have any fear, and I would never show any fear.
So it's pretty much like you're showing him it's a test. Go ahead.
You talked about New York feeling a very demonic presence. I hear like L.A., even some parts of Florida. But, you know, mostly in Texas, I haven't felt that. But when I lived in Florida most of my life, some of the places there are very heavy too, in demonic activity.
No question.
And you know,
George, there was a place. I don't know if you heard me talk about this on a previous show. There is a place that I call the Apple Springs Vortex, and that was in Apple Springs, Texas, which is between, I think it's between Dallas and Houston. And I know that was another one where I flew into Dallas, I think it was Love Field, and drove 2 hours to this place in Apple Springs, Texas. And let me tell you, there was a lot going on there. And as soon as I entered into the town limits, it was like I was in a different place. I mean, like a different dimension almost. It was really, really very, very bizarre. And this rancher who had 400 acres, he was having a plethora of supernatural experiences.
Kind of like a Skinwalker Ranch kind of deal?
Yeah. It was amazing. It truly, and that was Apple Springs, Texas. I called it the Apple Springs Vortex.
Wow. You know, there's places like that all across. I missed the name. Who was it that called in? Was it Chris?
George.
George,
yeah. Yeah, my buddy George. Good guy.
Well, thank you for calling in, George.
Well, I just say one thing. Pray for the land. Like I said, much we pray for souls, we got to pray for the land, because I'm finding out there was a lot of innocent bloodshed on the land I live, so we have to repent.
You're right. And